Yo, what is good, y'all? It's your boy Ty back here with another video. In this video today, I am going to be picking my NCAA March Madness bracket today. I watch a little bit of college basketball. Like the Big Ten is kind of my strong suit because obviously Iowa plays in the Big Ten. So I know a lot about the Big Ten. But I would say like the SEC, the ACC as well as the Big 12. I don't know as much about it. I have done a little bit of research before putting this bracket together, and I do know a lot more than obviously the majority of people. But again, when it gets to like the specifics of certain situations, I might not, know the most about it, but I would say I know more than the majority of people. And so I'm going to be filling out my bracket today for you guys. So this is going to be my bracket. So you guys are going to see it, my exact picks. I'm going to be breaking down why I believe and why I feel the way about certain things that I do in this video today. But before we dive into my bracket, if you are new to my channel and have not yet, please consider smashing that subscribe button as we are on the road to 60,000 subscribers. I've been thinking about, doing one just for the community as far as a bracket. So let me know if you guys would be interested in that as well. But we're going to start up here in the West in the upper left-hand corner. Gonzaga against Norfolk State or Appalachian State. It doesn't really matter, guys. Zags is easy, guys. The 1 seed, they're undefeated. Do I think they'll win the championship? You guys will find out later on in this video. Missouri, Oklahoma, where this is an intriguing matchup, and I like kind of clicking on this to see what the users pick. Obviously, most people are picking Oklahoma, OU in this matchup here. Obviously, 15-10, and they got a tough schedule. The Big 12 is not easy, and then SEC, Missouri. This is one I went back and forth with a little bit. Originally, my first initial pick was Missouri. But then I went back and forth. Obviously, the net rank favors Oklahoma. But I think in the last 10 games, it doesn't really tell much either because they've both struggled down the stretch. At the end of the day, guys, I think three-point shooting, it plays a big factor no matter where you're at, college level, NBA level. And 32%, that number scares me quite a bit. The Sooners, Boomer Sooner getting it done in game number 1 over Missouri. Moving on to our 5-12 match between Creighton and UC Santa Barbara here, and this is an intriguing one. This definitely is an intriguing one. You got obviously some Creighton injuries to worry about here, and again, obviously guard play is always super important, and I think Creighton, they're just we talk about 3-point ability. Look at their ability to just shoot the ball, almost 37% from deep, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Good guard play, played pretty decent down the stretch, 7-3 record. You can look kind of at their last 10 games here, and yeah, they played pretty decent down the stretch, beating UConn, a very tough opponent. Obviously Villanova is tough. Then you could click on UC Santa Barbara, and here's the thing, the strength of schedule kind of aspect as well. Obviously a lot of people are going to be picking UC Santa Barbara here. I am not one of them. Blue Jays on top. Next matchup here is an interesting one, and here's the reason I say that. The Virginia Cavaliers are a squad that I take a lot. I've taken them in past years to go super deep into the NCAA tournament. Now, the tough part about the Virginia Cavaliers is I've watched them a couple times this year, and I'm not going to sit here and say they're bad because that's not the case. They just haven't really impressed me too much this season. And, you can look at their last 10 games. Obviously, in the ACC, there's never an easy win. You got the loss versus Duke, NC State. Florida State, obviously a very good opponent, but at that same kind of concept, they got a big win against North Carolina. Georgia Tech's very solid, and then you got Louisville Incorporated in there as well, who's pretty solid. And then you get to the Ohio Bobcats, who obviously in the last 10 games have been 9-1. They got blown out. They got killed by Buffalo. But you just look at how well they've been playing recently overall, guys. They can shoot it to a pretty elite level at that 36% clip. Virginia shoots the ball as well. For me, a lot of people are taking Virginia in this game. Give me the Ohio Bobcats over the Virginia Cavaliers in round 1. So that's one of my bigger upsets. It's going to be a round 1 upset. I just like what Ohio's been doing in their last 10 games. I think they got a good opportunity to win. Our next matchup here, we do get the USC Trojans versus the winner of Wichita State and Drake. Now, Wichita State had beaten Houston early on in the year, so that's a pretty big win for them. Obviously, USC is very solid. I'm a big USC fan. And for Drake, obviously, they've got some big injuries, right? They got Roman Penn, who's not going to be playing. Hemphill, if he's back, that's going to be big for their game against Wichita State. And then you got the Wichita State Shockers here, who, are without a couple of players as well. So I think it honestly depends who comes out of this game. I think if Drake ends up beating Wichita State, that's going to set up for a very intriguing matchup because the Bulldogs, say what you want. They're 4 losses. I think a couple of them have been to the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago. And obviously, they do got a big win over Loyola as well. And then they have an extra loss to Valparaiso. And then you look at the Wichita State Shockers, who in their last 10 games have been very, very solid. You look at it, obviously the loss to Cincinnati doesn't look great, but you know they have beaten Houston, and Houston is obviously very, very solid. So in my opinion, I think Wichita State is going to come out of this over USC. I'm high on USC, but I think Wichita State is going to get it done versus the Bulldogs, the short-handed Bulldogs, and obviously I think give me Wichita State over the USC. Our next matchup between Kansas and Eastern Washington is one that if Kansas does get everybody back, right? If they get David McCormack back, I'm not too worried about KU in this matchup, but Eastern Washington, do not sleep on them. I'm telling you, do not sleep on Eastern Washington. Obviously, Kansas does have a tougher strength of schedule, but Eastern Washington could put up a fight in this game. Give me KU, but I think this game is going to be a very, very close and competitive game in which KU wins by about 5 points. Next, we get an Oregon VCU matchup in which I have not watched VCU play once this year. I really, truly haven't. But we'll just break this down for you guys quick. Obviously, for Oregon, they can shoot it. They are shooting 38% from the three-point line. And that's something where VCU is going to just struggle a little bit. Obviously, VCU's strength of schedule is up there as they play in the Atlantic 10, only giving up 64 points a game as well. So you got Oregon who's going to score it at a higher rate. VCU is a little better defensively. As we look at this matchup in the team overview here, Oregon started the season, as you guys can see, they were banged up. But once they got healthy, they started figuring things out. And so I think that's the big thing for Oregon is, I mean, they were banged up earlier in the year, still got to this 20-6 record. And obviously, I always like looking at the last 10 games. Now, Oregon State, that loss, might not look great, but they've been balling lately. Oregon State has been hooping, and then you can look at the win over Colorado. Then you look at the VCU side of things, obviously 8-2 in their last games. You look at how many close and competitive games VCU has had. For me, I can't take VCU over the Oregon Ducks in this game. Iowa Grand Canyon, what is there to say about this matchup? Now, Grand Canyon is nothing to sleep on, right? These guys can ball. Obviously, they've lost some close and competitive games, but don't sleep on Grand Canyon and their ability to be pretty competitive in this game. Now, Iowa, obviously, in their last 10 has been pretty solid, right? They got blown out by Michigan and lost to Illinois by 10, but they had been pretty solid. The big win over Michigan State, who's a very, very solid opponent. Rutgers, Wisconsin, they got some pretty big wins. Also beat a one seed by 16 points at Ohio State. So Iowa's been playing pretty well lately. The big thing for Iowa is if CJ Frederick can play, extended minutes and is healthy, that's going to be big for Iowa, especially Joe Wieskamp, who has a banged up ankle. Now, I will say if Iowa's all healthy outside of Nunge, they'll be pretty fine, at least getting through the first round. After the West, we are going to head over to the South side of things. Baylor, Hartford. I'm not breaking down the matchup. Give me the Baylor Bears over Hartford right there. North Carolina, Wisconsin. This is one of the most intriguing matchups here that we're going to see. Now, the big thing here is neither one of these teams are good against the top 25. Neither one of them. Straight to schedule. Give me the Tar Heels. Points per game, the Tar Heels. Wisconsin's pretty good on defense. I think this is going to be one of the closer and competitive games that we see. The only thing for me is UNC, North Carolina, they're going to get it done on the interior, on the inside of things, whereas Wisconsin's going to shoot the ball a little bit better. So if Brad Davidson can get it going from the three-point line, if Dimitri Trice, if the guard play for Wisconsin is there, give me the Badgers, and I think Badgers will prevail in game one. It's just all going to depend on how they can compete against the Tar Heel Bigs. Next game, this is going to be a game in which a lot of people pick Winthrop. But hear me out about Villanova. Hear me out. Villanova has been getting it done for a long time. They got a very good coach in Jay Wright. And so the thing is, obviously, without Gillespie, that is going to hurt them quite a bit. But, I mean, they've been playing without him for a decent while, so they're getting used to it. Say what you want about Villanova. They have a close loss against Georgetown, and everybody thinks now Georgetown's incredible, which Georgetown has been playing pretty solid. They beat Connecticut, obviously the loss to Creighton. They're limping into the tournament pretty big, and if there's one good opportunity for a 12 seed over a 5 seed, I think it's it. And a lot of people are still going to pick Villanova, but give me Winthrop. I know a lot of people are going to pick this 5-12 upset. Give me Winthrop over Villanova without their senior guard, Connor Gillespie. Purdue, North Texas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I know quite a bit about Purdue. Now, obviously, Purdue's record versus the top 25 is 5-5, but you got to realize who the Boilermakers are playing. They're playing the Iowas, Illinois, Ohio States of the world. Big thing for North Texas that can keep them in the game is their ability to knock down shots at an elite level, shooting 38% from that 3-point line. When I say that Purdue is kind of battle tested, here's what I mean, right? They lost in overtime to the Ohio State Buckeyes, beat Wisconsin down the stretch, beat Michigan State, who's been balling. Now, obviously, the Big Ten is super, super deep, so it's hard to tell kind of within this last 10 games because you don't see Iowa or Illinois. But I'm telling you guys, Purdue can compete with some of the best teams in the nation. Give me the Boilermakers over North Texas. Next round here, we got Texas Tech and Utah State. Obviously, with Texas Tech, they're battle tested the Big 12. Now, the record versus the top 25 is very, very scary to me, being 3-8. Now, a lot of those games, I went back and looked, were super, super close. You look at the net rank for Texas Tech being 17th, so the strength of schedule is up there as well. For Utah State, they don't have a necessarily easy schedule either, right? They're in the Mountain West, in which you got San Diego State, who is very, very solid and elite. So I think both these teams are pretty battle tested, right? Utah State has the 20-8 record, and I think this is going to be another very, very close game in which I'm just going to give that slight edge to Texas Tech just because they are that little more battle tested. A matchup I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here, Arkansas versus Colgate. Now, Colgate's an interesting squad here because obviously they were impacted by COVID, only playing 14 total games. So that's kind of the interesting thing with Colgate, right? They haven't played that many games. And, you know, their opponents, obviously, you guys can see as well as I can that, you know, they're just not high-quality opponents. Whereas Arkansas, in their last 10 games, are 9-1 with a close loss to LSU by 7 points. Beat Alabama, beat LSU, beat Missouri in overtime, beat Florida. If there's one team that's pretty hot going into the tournament that did not win a conference title, it's the Arkansas Razorbacks. Next, we do got Florida and Virginia Tech, a matchup that I think is a very, very good and intriguing matchup here. Obviously, with the Floridas coming out of the SEC, Virginia Tech out of the ACC. When you look at their last 10, I'm not going to lie, Florida obviously has that 5-5 record, but if you look at who they've played, they beat West Virginia, right? And then obviously Tennessee is very, very solid. You look at Virginia Tech, also 6-4 in their last few games. North Carolina getting beat by them. Georgia Tech, who's obviously very, very solid. This is going to be one of the more intriguing matchups of the first round. Give me Virginia Tech in a close win. If there's 1-2 seed I think that we could see getting beat in round one, it is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the reason for that I say this is because Ohio State, I just feel like, is just so inconsistent. You guys can see down the stretch, they're limping into the NCAA tournament. I know they were impressive in the Big Ten tournament, no doubt, but they're limping pretty heavily into the Big Ten tournament. Obviously, when I say that, they've lost against some very good opponents. Michigan, obviously Michigan State, they got beat by. Iowa, they got beat by. Illinois, they got beat by. Close win against Minnesota. Overtime win against Purdue. Now, Minnesota, you can say whatever they want. They battled some top teams and they beat Iowa, but a close win over Purdue, 1-point win over Michigan, 3-point win over Illinois. They're not blowing teams out. They're really not. And then you look at Oral Roberts on this side of things. To do what Oral Roberts has done, you know, beating South Dakota State, who was, I think, the 1 seed in that conference. Do I think Oral Roberts is going to pull the upset? No, but I think that game could be closer than a lot of people predict. Heading on down to the east, we do get Michigan versus Middleton or Mount St. Mary's here. And honestly, Mount St. Mary's, Texas Southern, doesn't matter who comes out of there. Give me the Wolverines. Next, we got the 8-9 matchup of LSU and St. Bonaventure. Now, this is a matchup for LSU I don't love. And the reason I say this, LSU, I think if there's an 8 seed that has a chance to make the Final Four, it's the LSU Tigers. But the problem I see with this is that this is not an easy matchup for them. It's not an easy matchup at all. Now, LSU has been playing very, very solid down the stretch. Took Alabama to, I think it was a 2-point final. But then you look at the Bonnies from St. Bonaventure. I mean, they've been playing, to say that their schedule is easy is not true at all, right? They're only 15-4, so they've only played 19 total games. But I think this is going to be a very, very intriguing matchup. You look at the field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, which is very, very close. I just think LSU, they've got that talent, right? They've got what it takes. But at the same time, St. Bonaventure is tough as well. I think I'm going to take LSU. And if we get this matchup in the round of 32, watch out. Next, we do got Colorado versus Georgetown. And just look at this. This is crazy to me that 40% of people are picking the Georgetown Hoyas. Now, with that being said, Georgetown does have the 7th toughest strength of schedule here. Obviously, they won their conference tournament, but 13-12 record, right? Against the top 25, they're 3-4. Colorado is 3-1. You look at the Buffaloes here, and I'm not going to sit here and lie. I like Colorado a lot. I really, truly like what Colorado does give me for as far as this match-wise. But then you look at Georgetown. There's not a team hotter in the whole tournament than the Georgetown Hoyas. And honestly, if you're looking for a good first round matchup, if you don't got time to watch them all and just have time to watch a game, might be the game for you. I'm not going to lie, Patrick Ewing has the Hoyas balling, but Colorado obviously has McKinley Wright. So I think it's going to be a very, very close and competitive game. Obviously, I'm going to take the upper hand in Colorado here. But if you pick the Hoyas, I can't blame you. Next, we got the Florida State UNC Greensboro matchup. And guys, if there's a team I'm high on, it's the Florida State Seminoles. Now, they have been kind of shaky down the stretch, kind of inconsistent, losing to Notre Dame, North Carolina, Georgia Tech. But at that same token, I feel like when Leonard Hamilton gets those boys focused in and locked in, there's not a better defensive team in the country. Combine that defense with their ability to shoot the ball at 39% from the three-point line, I think it's going to be very, very tough on UNC Greensboro, who only shoots the ball at a 30% clip. Expect this to be a first-round flood with the Scotty Barnes defense and his ability, his ceiling. I just expect Florida State to be able to get the job done. Next, we get a BYU versus a winner of Michigan State and UCLA matchup. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I absolutely love Michigan State going into this tournament. Michigan State, you want to know who they've beaten? They down the stretch, they beat Michigan, they beat Illinois, they beat Ohio State. Now, yes, they got killed by Iowa, they lost to Purdue, lost to Maryland, but Michigan State is one of those teams that you do not want to see in March, led by Tom Izzo. You don't want to see him. On UCLA's side, UCLA is solid as well, right? Down the stretch, obviously struggled quite a bit, but they've got a pretty tough schedule, right? I mean, they're in a decently tough conference as well. Now, obviously, the strength of schedule for BYU is up there because if you look who BYU plays and who they've lost to, you guys can see Gonzaga. I think they lost to Gonzaga 3 different times this season. Obviously, for BYU, they got Matt Haarms, who is the Purdue transfer. And so it's good to see Matt Haarms doing his thing for BYU. For me, I like the winner of MSU and UCLA here just because I think Michigan State's going to get the job done over UCLA. And if there's one team that can make a deep run as an 11 seed, give me the Michigan State Spartans. Texas Abilene Christian, I don't know anything about the Abilene Christian. I know nothing about them outside of the fact that they've won 9 out of their last 10 games. And I mean, a lot of these games are blowouts. So that is kind of impressive to see for Abilene Christian. On the flip side of things, Texas, the Longhorns, the Big 12 champions, they've been balling down the stretch. And honestly, out of the Big 12, it's just so tough because there's a lot of teams that are kind of all together. You got West Virginia, you got Kansas. Throw Texas Tech, Oklahoma State all in that category, who I think any one of those teams can make a very deep run. Texas, they know how to win close games. Give me the Longhorns in round 1 over Abilene Christian. Our next matchup between Connecticut and Maryland is one that is very, very intriguing to me. On the UConn side of the ball, obviously without James for a few weeks, they were without their probably best player, for a future first round pick. On the Maryland side, they got Darryl Marcel, one of the best defensive players in all of college basketball. Down the stretch, obviously, they've had some close and competitive games. Beat Michigan State, which is no easy task. Obviously, getting beat by Michigan. Maryland's battle-tested, no doubt about it. You see the record against the top 25 is 4-7. In my opinion, Maryland's more battle-tested. UConn, the 0-4 record against the top 25 is a little bit deceiving because, like I said, they were without their best player. They battled Creighton down the stretch. Were pretty solid heading into that conference tournament. In my opinion, this one could go down to the wire. Give me the UConn Huskies over Maryland. Next, we go down to Alabama versus Iona. You got Rick Pitino's squad here making the tournament. Good for Rick Pitino, man. Now, the one thing about Alabama that scares me quite a bit, obviously their net rank 7th, strength of schedule is 10th. They're only 1-3 against the top 25. Now that scares me a little bit, but Alabama, we all know what they're going to be able to do. Now, if there's a 15 seed to get it done, don't doubt Rick Pitino's squads. But like I said, the Crimson Tide are so tough. Playing the SEC, they've been very good down the stretch. LSU, Tennessee, they beat some very quality opponents. I don't trust Alabama. If there's 1-2 seed I don't trust at all, it is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Do not be surprised if Rick Pitino's squad takes Alabama to the wire down the stretch. Give me Alabama in a close one over the Iona Gales. Heading on down to our last section here, the Midwest region. Illinois versus Drexel. I'm not breaking that game down. Give me the Illinois Fighting Illini easily over Drexel. Now, this matchup right here is going to be one for the turn. Like, if I'm telling you guys, I'm so stunned at this first round matchup. I love Georgia Tech. And when I say that, I absolutely love Georgia Tech in this tournament. I love what they're going to be able to do. But on the flip side of things, for Loyola Chicago, I like them a lot too. I think Loyola's kind of overlooked because of the conference they play in, their ability to shoot the ball. They've got Krutwig, they've got championship DNA. I like Loyola Chicago a lot. But what Georgia Tech is going to give you, you look at their last 10 games, they've been balling. A win over Florida State, win over the Cuse, who's in the tournament. Clemson in a close loss. I mean, they've been doing their thing. They've been hooping down the stretch. For Loyola of Chicago, they've been solid as well. Obviously, the overtime loss to Drake. Close win over Valpo. Overtime win over Southern Illinois. They've shown flashes of, of dominance. They've shown flashes of, struggling against top opponents. I think it's tough here to pick against Loyola of Chicago in round one, but I am going to do exactly that. I like Georgia Tech a ton. Give me a Georgia Tech in a close one over Loyola of Chicago. A lot of people love Oregon State in this matchup against Tennessee. I'm not one of them. I get it. You guys want to hype Oregon State up. They've been playing great down the stretch. Beat Colorado in a close loss over Colorado, as you guys can see a little bit earlier. But I'm just not one to hype them up to that next level. Now, Tennessee. You look at Tennessee and kind of what they've done down the stretch. Beat Florida twice, lost to Alabama. For me, what I like about Tennessee more than anything is just what they've done overall, right? I like their net rank up there at 13th. Is this going to be a guaranteed win? I know it's not, but I think a lot of people are higher on Oregon State than I am. And how much do you trust the Vols? Look, I trust them quite a bit. Talent will prevail in this matchup, and then I think Tennessee can make a pretty deep run. Next, we got the Oklahoma State Liberty matchup here. Strength of schedule for Oklahoma State. Like I said, the Big 12 is not easy. I do like that record against the top 25, and I love NBA talent in Cade Cunningham. You look at Oklahoma State's last 10 games, yes, they had a close loss to Texas, a loss to Baylor. They beat West Virginia twice. They beat Baylor. They beat Oklahoma twice. They beat Texas Tech. I love how Oklahoma is setting up going into the NCAA tournament. But on the Liberty side of things, they haven't lost in any of their last 10 games. They've been brilliant down the stretch here. Now, I don't think Liberty is going to be able to get it done, but look at how good they shoot from the three-point line. But there's one factor that can keep you in the game, and if you are outskilled, it is the three-pointer, the ultimate equalizer. Give me Oklahoma State in a close game over Liberty. Next, we have a very interesting matchup setting up here between San Diego State and the Syracuse Orange. For San Diego State, their strength of schedule is up there at 28th. 2-0 record versus the top 25. You look at kind of their previous games here, and they've been pretty dominant, right? They really have been. For Syracuse here, they play in a very tough conference. Close loss to Virginia, close loss to Georgia Tech. Obviously got killed by Duke. And it's just for me, guys, I think San Diego State has that slight edge. If the Syracuse Orange don't beat North Carolina in this game right here, they're probably not even in the NCAA tournament. So give me San Diego State. I think it's going to be a win by more than most people think. Next, we do got West Virginia versus Morehead State. And if there's one team I like a lot, it's Bob Huggins' squad. The ability of Bob Huggins' squad to play defense combined with the 36% from the three-point line. Look, I absolutely love Bob Huggins. I love the way they play, love the way they compete. I know there's a lot of people that don't want to come up against West Virginia with Miles McBride, obviously Sean McNeil. Their ability to shoot the ball. Plus, they got Culver inside. I don't watch a ton of West Virginia. I've watched them in past years. But I will say this. I always love Bob Huggins' squad going into March. Yes, they're only 6-4 in their last 10. But look at their losses, guys. Look at it. 2 close losses to Oklahoma State, a close loss to Baylor, close double overtime loss against Oklahoma. They beat Kansas. They beat Texas Tech, and they beat Texas. They're prepared mentally, physically, emotionally going into the tournament. Give me Bob Huggins' squad in a blowout win over Morehead State. Next, we get Clemson versus Rutgers. There's a lot of people that like Rutgers heading into the tournament. I don't like either one of these squads at all. I really, truly don't like either of these squads. I'm going to take Clemson just because I don't like how Rutgers is heading into the tournament. And Houston versus Cleveland State. I'm super, super high on Houston. I'm higher than most people are, to be honest with you. I know their strength of schedule isn't elite, but look at their net rank up there at 5th. Houston's ability to shoot the ball, especially from Quentin Grimes, is absolutely incredible. Former 5-star prospect gets his opportunity in Houston, and I think he's going to make the most of it. Houston in a blowout win over Cleveland State. Looking at my second round matchups here, Gonzaga versus Oklahoma. Give me Gonzaga. I don't think this game's going to be particularly close. Creighton, Ohio, Blue Jays on top. Give me the Blue Jays over the Ohio Bobcats. Next, we got Wichita State, who I think is going to prevail over USC versus the Jayhawks. Now, this is going to be an interesting matchup. If we do get matchup analysis coming soon, I don't get to see it. If we do get to see Wichita State versus Kansas, Ooh, baby, that's going to be a matchup for the ages. Think KU is going to get it done. The Hawkeyes over the Ducks of Oregon. Next, we'll get Michigan versus LSU. And I'm not going to sit here and lie, guys. If Michigan is without Isaiah Livers, it might be very, very tough if they are without him. Now, on the flip side of thing, for LSU, they've been playing very, very well lately. I know I kind of talked about this in the opening, but I like LSU a lot heading into this tournament. I'm high on Michigan, more higher than most people, even without Isaiah Livers, but expect this to be a possible 8-1 upset here in LSU over Michigan. Buffaloes versus Florida State. Leonard Hamilton has those boys always balling in March. Give me the Florida State Seminoles in a blowout win over Colorado. Texas versus Michigan State. Another one of those 3-11 matchups that I think we could see just be super, super tough. I like Texas, but I like Michigan State. Give me Texas in a close win over the Michigan State Spartans. Connecticut, Alabama, like I talked on in the opener here for UConn, they were without, James Bouknight in the first couple, for a couple of weeks, and still found a way to get that 7 seed. So pretty high on UConn heading into this matchup. I like Alabama, but Alabama scares me quite a bit, no doubt about it. Heading into this upper division here, Baylor, Wisconsin, I don't expect this game to be particularly close. Purdue, Winthrop. Whether Purdue faces Villanova or Winthrop, I don't think it's going to be too close of a game. I like the Boilermakers a lot heading into the NCAA tournament. Arkansas and Texas Tech, a very intriguing matchup here. I love the Razorbacks, but like I said, a lot of these Big 12 teams are tested. Texas Tech they know how to lose close games. They just do. You look at it, 1-point loss to Texas, overtime loss to Okie State, 4-point loss to Kansas, 11-point loss to West Virginia. They just know how to play in close games, and I think this is going to be another one of those close games in which Arkansas, the Razorbacks, are going to get it done. Now, a 10-2 matchup we see here. I know a lot of the user picks are for Ohio State. I do not like the Buckeyes that much heading into the NCAA tournament. I really don't. I've seen them play a lot. Their ability is up there, right? They got a good ability. Just think they're pretty inconsistent. Now, do I think Virginia Tech has what it takes to get it done? Nah, I don't know. I don't know if they've got what it takes to beat an Ohio State Buckeye team. They've been battling, I think, COVID throughout their season, so it's going to be very tough for them to overcome that and beat Ohio State. Give me the Buckeyes. So, out of this top division, I only got one non-top 4 seed, and that's the Creighton Blue Jays. Heading on down to our Midwest division here, we got Illinois, we got Georgia Tech. This matchup right here is a doozy. Whether Illinois gets the Loyola Chicago matchup, gets the Georgia Tech matchup, it is going to be a fun one. The thing I like about Georgia Tech, I told you guys, they're battle tested, 5-3 against the top 25 teams. Just got done beating Florida State. I love Florida State. You look at kind of how they're heading into the tournament. Absolutely incredible. Honestly, guys, it's hard for me to pick against Illinois just because I love what Illinois can do. But if there's one team to knock them off early on, I think it is going to be a Georgia Tech. But give me the Illini in a very close and competitive game. One of the toughest matchups for me to pick is this one right here. We got the Tennessee Volunteers versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys here. Obviously, Oklahoma State has a tougher schedule. They're the third strength. They have the third toughest strength of schedule, and that just shows how tough the Big 12 truly is. You look at kind of their last games, and it is so tough to win in that conference. That compared to the Tennessee Volunteers and what they have done throughout the season. Close game versus Alabama, not getting it done. I like Tennessee a lot, but again, it's hard for me to bet against Oklahoma State with Cade Cunningham. Expect him to get his run in this NCAA tournament. West Virginia, San Diego State. Again, I like the Big 12 quite a bit, but San Diego State, guys, don't sleep on the Aztecs heading into the NCAA tournament on a high. Give me the Aztecs upsetting Bob Huggins. Although I think Huggy can make a run, give me the Aztecs of San Diego State. Houston, Clemson, no debate. Houston on to the Sweet 16. Heading in here to the back up to the West, Gonzaga, Creighton. Now, I don't think this matchup is as easy as everybody thinks. Gonzaga is going to get tested by Creighton. The Blue Jays got what it takes. They really, truly do. Obviously, they're playing the Big East, so it's not like they get cupcakes like Gonzaga. Obviously, a win over Connecticut. Georgetown, like I said, that's not necessarily an awful loss because, like I said, Patrick Ewing has them guys balling. But at the end of the day, I think Gonzaga is going to win a close and competitive game over Creighton. Now, if we get to this Iowa versus Kansas matchup, I think this is going to be one that is going to go down to the wire. And from a Hawkeye fan, look, like I said, I'm a big fan of the Big 12 and what they do. I think Iowa does prevail because of their three-point prowess. Now, if Iowa shoots the ball rough in that game, the Jayhawks definitely could get it done. But expect the Hawkeyes to make it to the Elite Eight. Next, we do get the Michigan-Florida State matchup that everybody is waiting on here. Michigan, obviously, if they can get past the first couple rounds, get Isaiah Livers back, I think they'll be okay. But here's what we got to look at here. With the Leonard Hamilton defense, pressure defense against the Michigan offense, obviously both these teams shoot lights out, 12th and 7th respectively. I just overall think Leonard Hamilton is going to get these guys up in them, obviously with Scotty Barnes as well as some other great guards. 2-0 against the top 20, against the top 25, make it 3-0. Florida State over Michigan in our Sweet 16, advancing to the Elite Eight. Texas, Alabama, this is a game I struggle picking with just because I don't trust Alabama at all. I really, truly don't. Obviously, they play in the SEC. They've won some close games. But again, it's the SEC compared to the Big 12. I like Texas over Alabama advancing to the Elite Eight. Up in our South Division, we do get Baylor versus Purdue. I expect the Baylor Bears to beat Matt Painter's Purdue Boilermakers. I don't expect Baylor really doesn't have that tough of an upper division in my opinion. For me, it's tough to see any of these teams beating Baylor and keeping them from that Elite Eight. Next, we get Ohio State and Arkansas. Again, Ohio State, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Not a team I'm as high on compared to most people, and I got my own reasons for that. 5-5 in their last 10. They're super inconsistent. They've showed that all year. Give me the Arkansas Razorbacks advancing to our Elite Eight. Hopping on down to our Midwest Division, Illinois versus Oklahoma State. I expect Cade Cunningham to get his run in, but the Illini are going to be too much. You got Ayo Dosunmu, you got Trent Frazier, you got experience, you got leadership. I expect the Illini to advance and get to that Elite Eight. Then we get Houston, San Diego State, and guys, this matchup could be a very, very, very fun one. I'm super, super high on Houston heading into the tournament, and they're advancing to our Elite Eight. So looking at our Elite Eight, we got Gonzaga versus Iowa, the rematch setting up in there. Florida State, Texas, a very, very intriguing matchup. Illinois versus Houston, as well as Baylor versus Arkansas. Our first matchup here is Gonzaga versus Iowa. So in the first matchup, Iowa shot the ball terribly. Gonzaga really kind of opened the doors. I think it was like a 10-point final, but the game really wasn't even that close. The one thing I will say is, how long is Gonzaga going to hold this undefeated kind of season? Are they going to hold it throughout the whole tournament? We'll see. Iowa's been playing pretty well. Like I said, if they can stay healthy, if Wieskamp's ankle injury is okay, Iowa can be in any game because of how they can shoot the ball. But I do expect the Zags to advance to our Final Four here as our first team. Next, we do get our Florida State-Texas matchup. Look, guys, I know a lot of people are high on Texas, the Big 12 Conference Championships, but give me the Florida State Seminoles in a close win over the Texas Longhorns. Next, we do get our Baylor Arkansas matchup. I'm high on Arkansas, but guys, it's tough to go against the Baylor Bears. It truly is. They're 22-2, obviously 8-2 in their last 10 games with the loss to Kansas, a loss to Oklahoma State. Don't expect that to kind of carry over into the NCAA tournament. I expect Baylor to truly make the Final Four. Our last matchup, Illinois versus Houston. I love Illinois. I love what they do give you. Obviously, they've been playing very, very well down the stretch. But don't sleep on Houston. I'm telling you guys this right now. Yes, they've had close games versus Memphis. They've lost to Wichita State. But do not sleep on Houston. I like the Houston guard play and what they are going to give me. Give me Houston over the Illini. So looking at our Final Four here, we got Gonzaga versus Florida State, 1 versus 4. Baylor versus Houston, 1 versus 2. Now in our first matchup, Gonzaga versus FSU, this is a game in which, guys, if we get to this point, I will be so intrigued by this matchup. And the reason I say this is FSU, Florida State, they get hyped up on the defensive end of the court, and deservedly so. They play at a pretty good tempo. Defensively are very, very solid, and they're pretty battle tested. You can say what you want, but throughout the season, they've been in close and competitive games. On the flip side of things, Gonzaga, they've really blown the door open on everybody. Now, this BYU game was not an easy win for them. They've kind of had some close and competitive games with BYU throughout the season. Now, I know a lot of people are picking Gonzaga to go and win the NCAA championship, but give me the Florida State Seminoles. Leonard Hamilton, Scotty Barnes, and the crew, they're going to get it done heading to the championship game on April the 5th. We get Baylor versus Houston here on the other side of things. Baylor, obviously 22-2 in the Big 12 is super, super impressive. Houston 24-3 in the AAC. But the one thing that you guys got to look at is look at the strength of schedule here. Houston has a tougher strength of schedule than the Baylor Bears did. Obviously, Houston 8-2 in their final couple games. Wichita State is not anybody to sleep on that. The loss to East Carolina definitely makes me a little bit worried here. But on the flip side of things, Baylor's lost by 13 to Kansas. They barely beat Iowa State. So Baylor's not flawless by any means. I'm thinking we're going to get a 4-2 matchup here in the finals with Florida State and Houston guys here. And if we get to this finals, I will love it, man. I will absolutely love it because I love Florida State, what they do on defense. But on the flip side of things, I like Houston a lot. I've said it a lot going into this kind of bracket and what I've thought. Here's the reason I like Houston a lot. I don't see Houston getting beat by Cleveland State. I don't see either Clemson or Rutgers beating Houston. West Virginia could. San Diego State could. But I do like Houston's road to the finals. And I like Houston as my NCAA champion as in the year 2021. I really do. I like Houston. I like what they give you. Houston could lose to Cleveland State. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at what they do and what they give you, their average win, guys, is by nearly 20 points. So I like what Houston gives you out of the AAC, and I think Houston has what it takes to be our 2021 NCAA champion. I know a lot of you guys might disagree in kind of my predictions, but that's what makes this thing fun. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts on my bracket, on my Elite 8 matchups in Gonzaga, Iowa, Baylor, Arkansas, as well as scroll on down here to Florida State, Texas, and Illinois, and Houston. If there's one team that I think I maybe missed out on that I think could make it done, I think the winner of this game is going to win the NCAA championship. If it gets to Illinois versus Houston, I'm super high on both those teams. I just like Houston. I like their kind of makeup of this squad, and that is why I have them in the NCAA championship overcoming Florida State. Do you guys think Gonzaga is going to win the title? Baylor? Let me know who you guys' predictions are. Let me know down below in the comments, guys. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new, and as always, man, I love you guys, and have a blessed day.